Hi, everyone. I did it. Guys, I did it. I did it. I actually got out of the Army. Well, technically, it's not until the 31st of March, but I'm on paid vacation until then. So I'm out of the Army. No more. I'm done. Yay! Okay, so I want to talk about that just a little bit. And I want to talk about the three things that if someone came to me to ask me, how do I leave my job? I would tell them to do these three things because this is what I did. But before we dive into that, I want to tell you that not everyone wants to leave their job. So if you are in social selling, network marketing, direct sales, anything like that, do not assume that because you have a goal like that or had a goal like that everybody else does too. In fact, if you're a longtime listener of this podcast, you have heard me reference this before, but the awesome, amazing Larry Thompson, years and years and years ago, before I ever knew what marketing was, came up with what we now know as the Thompson rule. And that, really the first part of that rule spells it all out, that 80% of people who start in direct sales or network marketing want to make up to an extra $500 a month. Let me say that again. 80% of people who start in network marketing want to make $500 a month. That's it. Now, some of you are like, $500? Well, look, $500 could cover groceries, a car bill, part of a mortgage, part of your rent, maybe daycare, babysitters. That could add up to be an epic vacation by the end of the year. So do not think that that is a little amount, because it's really not. For most Americans, and I know we have listeners from all over the world, but for most Americans, which since America is one of the wealthiest nations, I assume it is probably a pretty standard thing across the world that $500 or whatever that equivalent is in other people's currencies can make a huge difference in someone's life. It can be the difference between poverty and not being in poverty, or struggling, I guess is probably a better way to say it. Struggling every single month to having a net positive in your bank account every single month. So for 80% of people, not only is that their goal, but they can't even conceive of making enough to pay their full mortgage or pay all their bills, let alone be where you're probably at, because if you're listening to this, you're probably part of the 5% who are looking to make as much money as humanly possible. And whether I know that you have done that or not doesn't matter. We're talking about desire. So whether you have already succeeded in that is not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is if you're here listening to this podcast, you're invested in your business, you're taking time for personal development, to hone your craft, to get better. And so your desire is going to be better than 95% of the people that are out there. And so your desires are probably much greater than the average person that you will recruit. And you've probably figured this out already, because there's always those people who come to you and they're like, oh yeah, I want to do this business. I'm so pumped. I'm so excited. And then like a month later, they're out, or they never do anything with that, right? Because they realize that it actually is a business. It actually takes work. You actually have to serve people, and you really do have to be consistent at it. So that's really just kind of my first disclaimer. This is not an episode about me telling you how great I am or what I've done, because Lord knows I have made lots of mistakes. I have done all sorts of things wrong. But looking back, and I'm not really far enough out that I can have a ton of perspective, but looking back at the last 6 years of my network marketing journey, these are the things that I would tell you or anybody who may be in a situation where you're not fulfilled. Maybe you are someone who has studied for a career. Maybe you have a profession of sorts, whatever that may be. And at one point you were very passionate about it, and now you're just not anymore. That was me. Like, I'm so proud of being in the Army. I don't regret any of it whatsoever. And what can also be true is that I was ready for something different. That doesn't take away from my experiences. That doesn't take away from anything. It doesn't mean I regret it. It doesn't mean I'm not grateful for the people and travel, all of that, right? They can both be true. I was ready for something different. 20 plus years is a long time to do anything, let alone have the same employer. I've literally only had one employer as an adult. So it's a long time. I signed my ROTC contract in 1990. I think it was late 96 or early 97, somewhere in there. and it's now 2023. So you do the math on how long I've been working for the United States government. Anywho, so back on track, that the 3 things that I would tell people, and I'm just going to kind of go through these a little bit quickly. They're very simple. You've heard them all before, but when I tell you that these are the things that are really, really, really important over everything else, like, here's what doesn't matter. Let me tell you this first. It doesn't necessarily matter what company you're in, as long as it's a good ethical company. It doesn't really matter what you're promoting. It doesn't matter where you live. It doesn't matter what your age is or your gender or your social media followers. None of that. I'm not going to talk about any of that. What matters is these 3 things. Number 1, get very clear on your goals. You're like, yes, Soraya, duh, I've heard that before. Yeah, here's what I mean. What I mean is you need to sit down and have a discussion with you, your family members, whoever is important in decision-making for your life, and figure out what number you need to make per month as a goal, right? What do you need to be able to make a change in your life, whether that be scale back on hours or maybe go from full-time to part-time or walk away fully or whatever. You need to know what that number is. I will be straight up in that I have a pension. So my number wasn't nearly that high. Like, I mean, it definitely was not 0, but my pension is not going to cover my lifestyle. But I was able to be lucky enough to factor that in. We have other investments. We've got lots of other things. So for us, we had a lot of flexibility. Not everyone is as privileged. I've also been in this industry for 6 years. I have an email list. I make money selling courses. I do lots of things. So we factored all of that in. We factored what we want our lifestyle to be, et cetera, and knew what number I needed to get to be able to pull the trigger to put in my retirement paperwork. It was that simple. Not only, though, do I think you need goal numbers. Some of you, that's not your goal. Some of you, your goal is a feeling or an emotion. And I'll tell you that for my husband and I, that was equally as important. I was tired of not being able to do the things that I was really passionate about. I am so passionate about serving you, creating content, putting my creative energy out there in a way that I don't typically get to do. And I wanted to do more of that. And I knew that the more that I could do in that arena, the happier I would be. And I'll tell you, the last couple years have not only been like, pandemic stressful and all that kind of stuff, but physically stressful for me, personally stressful. Many of you guys know we've been going through lots of losses in our fertility journey. Like, it's been a journey. And so anything that I could do in my life to free up stress was a net positive, even if that means or meant that we had to take a pay reduction, which it ended up not being, but still, like, I was okay with that. Totally okay with that. Okay, so that's number 1. Get really clear on your goals, your, like, whatever that goal is for you, a feeling, a rank, a dollar amount, whatever that is, figure it out, write it down on paper. Now, once you've done that, you need to chart out the math for what that's going to take or figure out the exact steps that it's going to take. I will tell you, I actually did just a reel and a TikTok about this yesterday. There were a couple things that Mike and I knew that we wanted about 6 years ago. And number 1 was to be close to family. We were living in Washington, D.C., loved it there, checked all of our requirements, except it was not close to family. And so we knew our parents are not getting any younger. We were ready to be much closer, at least driving distance to family. And so that was number 1. We wanted a bigger backyard for our then 1 dog, now 2 dogs, because that was my plan all along. I wanted space for more dogs. But yeah, we had a tiny backyard in DC and it was great, but we just wanted somewhere where like the dogs could roam and, neighbors weren't going to care about them barking and all that kind of stuff. That was number 2. Another thing for me was a home gym. If you guys follow me on Instagram stories, you see I am always in my home gym every single day. We had a little baby tiny home gym in like a front sun porch in our last home. And don't get me wrong, it was great. It fit the bill. But if we're dreaming and we're setting goals, I wanted a big old home gym. And Lord knows I have that now. So it wasn't just financial. It wasn't just, where do I want to live or what kind of house? It was all these things that I knew that cumulatively, if we could get those things in our life and we could get very clear on that, then we would be excited. So we mapped all this out. And then really my tip number 2 is get the plan and a date and stick to it. get a plan and a date and stick to it. So I put a date on the calendar. 2 years ago, I put my retirement date on the calendar. I backwards planned it all. I figured out how many days of vacation time I had and all these like complicated things that I was going to need to do. I was eligible for retirement in 2020, but the timing wasn't right because we hadn't figured out the rest of the plan yet. We hadn't done a couple different things. So we put this date on the calendar, March 31st, 2023, and I stuck to it. Did 100 million things go wrong between 2.5 years ago and now? Yes, absolutely. Were there times where I doubted myself? Absolutely. Were there times where I was like, oh, this is dumb. I'm walking away from a very comfortable job, a very well-paying job, and I could easily continue this with XYZ. I'd rationalize it. Were there times where I was like, oh, I'll just add 6 more months. Maybe I'll stay 1 more year. Maybe I'll do this. Maybe I'll do that. Nope. And then I was like, Soraya, you just set a date and you stick to it, and there's no reason to change it. You know you're capable. It wasn't anything other than just doubt that everybody has, and that's totally normal. So again, step 1, get really clear on your goals. Step 2, figure out what those steps are to get there, set a date, and stick to it. Then number 3, and this is really important, keep your head down and do the work and have everyone you know in your life hold you accountable. I don't care if you are the type of person who likes to tell people your plans or not. Tell your family, tell your friends, tell your social media followers, this is what I'm working towards. Now, if there's a reason why you can't, I got it. Like if legally you can't say that, or if you can't tell, people on social media that you're going to quit eventually, whatever, that's fine. But do as close to that as you can. And here's why that's so important. People are going to cheer you on. And the road is not going to be perfect. It's going to be a little bit bumpy. And you're going to show all that in your branding and in your social media. And what that does is it, number 1, builds trust with your audience. It builds trust with your team, if you have one. It builds trust with your future customers and people that are looking at you going, oh man, she or he is doing something that I could never do. But they're seeing you do it and they're like, well, maybe I could do it. Maybe I could do it. I have a dear friend of mine who reached out to me the other day that said, you know what, Soraya, watching you go through this process has lit a fire underneath me. And I'm going to talk with my employer about my roadmap to leave my job as well. Like, that's the best compliment. That's why I share. That's why we share stuff on social media, so we can inspire people and give people the belief that if I can do it, you can do it. Because trust me, I am just like you. I just have the audacity to put a microphone in front of my mouth sometimes and tell you guys what I'm doing on, a podcast. But I'm just like you. I'm absolutely just like you. I have had all the doubts, all the worries, all the this, all the that, all the anxiety about it. But at the end of the day, there was more excitement than any of the negative feelings. And so I told everyone I knew. They all held me accountable. I took them along for the journey, and just keep your head down and do the damn work. And that's it. So those are the things that I really focused on. And I will tell you, it's people are asking me how I feel. Like, it's day 2. So I don't know how I feel yet, but I am so physically exhausted and emotionally exhausted, yet more creative and excited than I have been in the same time. Like, I think those two things can coexist. I can be really, really, really tired and burned out from my longtime profession, and I can also be very, very pumped for what lies ahead. So what does lie ahead? This is content creation galore for me. I get to really focus on the things that I love. And let me tell you what those 3 things are really quickly. So my shampoo business, I love it. I love it. I love talking about hair. Who would have thought? Love helping people with their hair. It's so much fun. Number 2, course creation. For those of you who are not partnered in business with me, I'm still here to serve you no matter what company, what you're selling, does not matter to me. And I have a project coming out here in April that you will want to pay attention to. So this will be reminder number 1 to get on my email list. Go to my website. The link will be in the show notes, and download anything there just so you're on my email list, and you will get first notification of any courses. So creating courses, digital products, things like that. And then guess what? I'm going to get more into user-generated content. I'll take you along with that. Along that journey as I go through it. I'm kind of at just the very, very beginning. If you don't know what it is, don't worry about it. We'll talk more about that on the podcast. So subscribe. And you know what else? I'm going to do all sorts of things that I've not had time to do. I'm going to work out more. I'm going to take more day hikes. I'm going to take more naps because that's important. I just started a massive closet cleaning project. So all the projects that I put on the back burner are now, there's space for it in my life. Traveling more, cooking more good food at home, because it's what I enjoy. All of those types of things. So what are those things for you? Because remember when I said get clear on your goals, and sometimes they're not just numbers. Those feelings are the things that we want. Money is great, but money just gives us options. Money gives us options to relax and travel or spend time doing whatever we want, spending more time with family, spending more time doing hobbies, whatever it is that you want. Money is the tool that allows you the feelings that you're aiming for. So if you can tap into the feelings, it makes doing the work much easier. It makes posting on social media, following up with prospects, selling products, hosting opportunity calls, all the things that you know that you need to be doing. It makes it so much easier because you know that there's a tangible outcome at the end. So as I go through this kind of retirement journey, I will take you guys, of course, along with me. But you can certainly expect more podcasts now because I am home with a lot to discuss and I don't have a boss anymore telling me what I can and can't post. So that is true freedom. Anyways, so grateful that you're here. If you thought that this was valuable, if you think that there's someone who needs to hear this message, I would be so honored if you'd share this episode with them. Or you can post it to your Instagram stories, tag me in it. I will certainly respond. But last reminder, please go to the show notes or just go straight to my website at SorayaGoddard.com. It's spelled the same as my Instagram handle and my TikTok handle and all my social media handles. Go there and just opt into anything, whether you want it or not, and that will put you on my email list and you'll start to get all my updates. You can always unsubscribe at any time, but you will get first notified on the course/project that I have coming out. I'll give you a hint though, this is unlike any other course you've ever been through. I promise you. I don't care if you're busy. I don't care if you say you don't have time. This is going to be a course like no other. It's amazing. So that's a little teaser for you. Okay. Appreciate you being here. Share away if you feel so compelled, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.